At what times might I be considered a racist? There's probably things that like I'll repeat or like things that I'll say every once in a while that are things that I've heard like long ago, like my grandparents or even my great grandparents say that have like
Because all immigrants have the same story. They come here to better their lives. They're not here to like do any invading or stealing any jobs. It's ridiculous.
My folks are from Central America. My parents are rooted in Central America, and there was a lot of movement in Central America with Africans and the slave trade. And
I went to an HBCU my freshman year of college, so I think being the only white person like really put into perspective of what like racism can really be like, if that makes sense. Like I would go to...
Hi everyone, my name is Dr. Julius Doyle. I'm an anthropologist and a professor of African American Studies. And if you're watching this, there's a good chance that you may recognize me from my lecture reels online, where I discuss race, racism, whiteness, identity, and contemporary issues in society. But today I want to talk about something that's a little bigger. I want to explain to you what the Race Project is, where it came from, where it currently is, and where I believe it could be headed in the future. At its core, the Race Project is a public-facing racial literacy initiative. It's designed to become a large educational repository. The idea is actually very simple. Real people from different political orientations, different belief systems, and even different intersectional identities, sitting down and speaking honestly about their experiences, not debating, not performing, not trying to win, just speaking and being heard. The slogan I often use is real voices, real experiences, no debates. Because the goal of this project is not confrontation. It's listening, it's reflection, it's understanding. Part of what inspired this project is the reality that conversations around race have become increasingly volatile, polarized, especially online. Social media platforms often reward outrage, confrontation, ideological performance, and these emotional escalations. And as a result, public discourse around race is increasingly shaped by misinformation, division, and spectacle. You see this across the political spectrum. Organizations and media ecosystems like Turning Point USA or PragerU have become major influences in how racial conversations are framed publicly. And to be clear, this project is not about censorship. It's not about silencing. It's not about disagreement. It's about creating a different model for engagement, a different structure for conversation. A lot of the intellectual foundation and rigor for this project comes from something that I describe as the moral contextual framework of racism. The basic idea is that racism exists on a spectrum between destructive racism and constructive anti-racism. And one of the key philosophical points behind this framework is this: if race can be used destructively, then race can also be used constructively. It can be used to cultivate empathy, compassion, understanding, education, and that's what the Race Project is intended to be: an intervention model, an alternative to the polarized debate culture that dominates so much of public discourse today. One of the reasons that interviews are so important to this project is because interviews bypass a lot of the performative dynamics that emerge in debates. When people are uninterrupted, they often become more vulnerable, more reflective, more honest. Contradictions will naturally reveal themselves. Shared experiences begin to emerge organically, and the audience gets to draw their own conclusions rather than what to be told. I'm creating a space where people can encounter perspectives that are different from their own directly. Right now, the Race Project is launching its first 100 interview videos. And honestly, this phase is really just a proof of concept. You can consider it to be more like a pilot phase. At the moment, the production is still extremely grassroots. You'll notice, for example, that the lighting is inconsistent. The equipment is minimal. There's no professional studio space. The project is self-funded, and I'm personally handling all of the filming and editing myself. But in many ways, I actually think those imperfections matter because they reflect the origins of the project. What I hope viewers see in these interviews is potential, emotional honesty, vulnerability, complexity. This is not propaganda. It's not gotcha content. It's not humiliation. It's not exposure. It's intended to be a space for reflection. And what you're seeing right now is only the beginning. The long-term vision for the Race Project is much larger. Eventually, I want this to become a searchable archive of racial perspectives and lived experiences. A system where users can filter interviews by race, gender, religion, ideology, ability, or any of these other intersectional specific themes: white privilege, inequality, discrimination, immigration, identity, policing, belonging, and then to be able to compare those experiences across groups, identify commonalities, identify contradictions, identify patterns. The possibilities are honestly limitless. This could function as an educational tool, a research tool, a public discussion tool, and ultimately a living archive of American racial experience. And that future requires infrastructure. Funding matters because scaling this project requires resources, professional studio space, better lighting, better audio, cameras, editing infrastructure, web developers, a searchable database with searchable database functionality, staffing, and of course, public recruitment. The current version of this project was built with extremely minimal resources, but the next phase requires real foundation. Right now, most of the participants are college students, mostly because that's the population that I currently have the most immediate access to. But the long-term version of this is much broader than that. I want open public recruitment. I want voices from across Los Angeles, at least right now, and then eventually across the country, and then eventually across the world. I want real diversity in real time. And that means interviewing people from all kinds of backgrounds: non-English speakers, American conservatives, white people, immigrant communities, religious minorities, people affected by ICE and deportation, people profiled for terrorism, working class Americans, and yes, even white supremacists, if they're willing to engage honestly. Because again, the point is not agreement. The point is understanding where people are sitting at the table of discussion on race. At its biggest scale, this project is really about depolarizing public discourse, creating more constructive engagement, building racial literacy, and preserving honest perspectives. I want to be able to create a living archive of how Americans, and indeed global citizens, experience race, particularly in this moment in history. At the end of the day, this project is really just about listening. So if you decide to engage with this project, I'd ask that you do so with an open mind. Explore the archive, reflect on your experiences, share the project with your friends and family, and if public recruitment opens in the future, I really want you to consider participating. And finally, if you believe in what this project is trying to build, there's a GoFundMe that's attached to this project, and the reality is that support determines scale. It determines professionalism. It determines accessibility. Every contribution helps expand what this project has the potential to become. You're not just funding videos. You're investing in dialogue, in understanding, in public education. And honestly, I hope we exceed the fundraising goal, because I genuinely believe in the potential that this project has to offer. This is only the beginning. Right now, you're just looking at a proof of concept. But I believe that this idea can grow into something so much more bigger and meaningful, something lasting. something genuinely valuable. And I genuinely believe that this project can make a meaningful impact and a difference. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. And thank you to everyone who supports the vision of the RACE Project. Watch, listen, support, and most of all, join the conversation. Thank you so much.